everybody. Africunia TV is inviting the masterclass today to do that. The whole masterclass program, which we start today. So I will lead the moderation for Victoria. And first of all, we about Africunia. Still joining. So one moment, please.
Let's hope the network will not fade out or crash.
So that was a small video animation from our graphic designers, and now I will give over the words to Victoria, the moderation for this nice masterclass. Victoria, are you with us?
Hello, good afternoon. Can anybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
How are you?
Welcome.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. You're welcome to today's session with the master class. I'm in conjunction with Africunia. I hope I got that right.
Yes, yeah, correct.
Okay, so I'm seeing so many persons here. I want to recognize my facilitator for today, Mel, and I'm seeing Abako. I'm seeing
Yes.
so many names I can't even pronounce. You're all welcome to today's session.
Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to have you here. Okay, first was that intro we just heard, and I hope we got something from that. Hello?
Yes,
Hello,
we
we're
can
getting
hear
you.
Hello.
Oh,
Sorry?
Maybe our
Yes,
network.
Hello.
I think we lost her.
She lost the network and she leave.
I'm sure it's a
Join
network.
again quickly, so that is the technical can face. We have Liesel here now with us.
Tell you the network will be a challenge today.
Okay, maybe we can a little bit go further. So in the first place, we wanted to address the rules and engagement of the day.
Hello, I'm sorry, my network disconnected me there. So I'm back.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Nice to have you back.
Major challenge today, the network.
Yeah, but it's okay now. Today we'll be talking on marketing, dealing mostly on understanding consumer behavior, and that will be facilitated by Mel, who is a PhD student of behavioral science at the Warwick University's Business School. So she will be our facilitator for today. And she is into personal financing, behavioral science. And she also writes on mostly financing, personal financing. I think she will do more of the intro when she comes up. But before then, I would want us to move fast so that we can spend more time on the session than on other things. First, she'll be the one during the session. I would like us to just let the moderator and the facilitator be the communicators. The session should last for 2 hours maximum. And after the session, we'll now have the facilitating session. We'll have time for questions for those that will have questions. I don't know if we're okay with that. Are we good to go? Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we are ready. We can
Okay.
Yes, yeah, okay.
So, okay.
Good to go.
Over to you, Mel. Hello, Mel. Are you with us? Hello?
Hello.
I think she's having network issues over there.
Okay, I don't see.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello, Mel. Over to you.
What?
Is she here?
Hello?
Is she here? I think she's not here.
Although I don't know her code, I can't see anything similar in the list either. So I think she's not online.
Okay.
The platform is obviously giving an error on some people trying to log in.
Okay, I think we'll have to contact her on that.
Yes, maybe
I
she
think
has
she's having network
because we have
issues.
challenge to change the links, maybe send her
Yeah.
again the right link. We had a little confusion before we start. Thank you.
Hello?
Hello.
Right.
So I'm still trying to reach out to her, but I can't get to her. So I think we would have to give it a little time.
Do you mean me?
Okay. Hello.
Yes.
Hi.
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Welcome.
How are you? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. Hello. Please, can you I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, better. Can you hear me now?
Who exactly are you talking to?
I'm talking to you.
Okay, well, that's
Please.
good to know. Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Okay, you're welcome. We're waiting for you.
Yeah, well, I was waiting for you because I've been sent the wrong things time after time again, so.
Apologies for that. We had network issues, so we're trying to get the right link.
I mean, you're gonna run into the issue that I promoted this thing with the old ID code and the old password, so I think you might have a lot of people trying to get into this call, which obviously isn't working because they're gonna try to get into a different call. So that's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, we are sorry for that, for the disappointment. Maybe you can share the new link with them. Is it possible?
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay. So
And maybe for the
I don't know if
from Mary, we had to change a little bit in the last minute because we had bad surprise in the last event we had with scammers, or I don't know how to say, with bad people who came in disturbing the meetings. And we upgraded the Zoom version just before the meeting to be more secure. You see already before somebody was introduced, which is not belongs to us. So we are a little bit more protected here. That's why we did that. And for the future, I'm sure we will not have these last minute changes. I'm sorry for that.
Okay.
okay. So are you ready for us? Are you good to go?
Yeah, I'll start. I mean, no one actually told me how long this was supposed to be. So I have a presentation which normally takes about 40 minutes-ish.
Okay, so you have like 1 hour, 30 minutes with us. Then we'll use 30 minutes for questions.
30 minutes. Okay, so that's good to know. Then I guess I'll start sharing my screen, hope it
Is that
works.
okay?
Yeah, it's fine. I'll just start sharing my screen and yeah, let's dive into it.
That my network is no good. My network is no good. So
Okay. So like we said earlier, we already started and we gave a brief introduction of what today would be about. Please mute your speakers so that we don't have interruptions. So just mute your audio for us. Thank you. I would want only the facilitator should be on to avoid interruptions. Please, I'm still waiting for you. You've not muted.
Does this actually work? Can everyone see my screen? Can everyone see?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, well then let's start and I will try to keep this under 30 minutes. So today we're actually going to talk about a really undervalued aspect of consumer behavior. A lot of things in consumer behavior, they are very, very marketing related, very much why are people buying this, why aren't people buying it, how can we make sure people buy this, you know, very, very marketing oriented. And something that's actually quite important is that it actually matters how people pay for their products. And this is something that is very, very often undervalued because it is seen that once a person already has a product, the payment itself is kind of, it doesn't matter as much. Whereas actually it matters quite a bit. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Very quick about myself. My name is Merle. I'm Dutch, currently also in the Netherlands, where it's very, very warm. My study is at the Warwick Business Group, where I'm in the science group. I'm actually a PhD student, and my entire topic of my PhD focus is on contactless payment methods, which have become incredibly popularized throughout Europe and most parts of the world in the past century. And that is actually what led me to this presentation as well. I'm going to skip this for the sake of time. So like I said, my main focus is on payment methods. So I actually care a lot about whether you pay with cash, with card, or with a mobile phone. And this is actually quite interesting because, you know, a couple of years ago, so maybe 10 years ago, people thought that paying with a phone was quite strange. It wasn't really something that was done. And this is actually because money has seen quite an evolution. So initially, when we think of trading, for a very, very long time, we have actually worked quite well in a system that's called barter, also known as direct trade. So if I went to a market, say 1,000 years ago, and I wanted to buy a chicken, I would have to buy a chicken and trade it for a bale of hay. So I would bring a bale of hay to the market to get a chicken. Obviously, this is not the most convenient system. And very often people switch to value holding materials such as beads and pretty shells. And after a while, people thought that was quite inconvenient as well, and they moved on to cash. In the 1960s, credit cards came up, in the 80s, debit cards came up, and in the last century, contactless has come up. Obviously, we've also been paying with mobiles. I'm pretty sure most people have a Visa, a Google, or an Apple Wallet on their phone. And if you want to get real fancy, we also have some time to dive into cryptocurrencies. So as I said before, barter is a form of direct trade. If I want, like I said before, if I want a chicken, I'm gonna have to bring something that equals the value of a chicken, which might be a bale of hay, or in the case of the image, a crate of apples. The issue with this is obviously that value fluctuates. Like a chicken isn't always worth, I think actually it's a rooster now I'm looking at it. A rooster isn't always worth a crate of apples. Sometimes it's worth 2 crates of apples. And it's actually quite difficult to establish who determines what it's worth. It's very, very inconvenient. If I want to buy 1 chicken, that's 1 crate of apples, sure. But if I want to buy 10 chickens, suddenly I have to bring 10 crates of apples. And it's just very, very inconvenient. So people very quickly moved on to value holders. So this means that it is a shell or a bead, so something very often very pretty, that was considered as a valuable. It didn't actually have any real value itself, but it meant that if I wanted to have a chicken and the chicken was worth 1 shell, that I could give someone 1 shell and they would then give me chicken. A system that really, really resembles money as we know it now. It was a lot more stable. It was a lot more easy to carry because you only have to now carry 10 shells with you if you want to buy 10 chickens rather than 10 crates of apples. So very convenient. But this system was very, very tribal. And within one area, people would trade with shells, and the other they would trade with beads. And there wasn't an exact exchange rate as we know them now. So this system ran into some issues as well. What became much easier was when people switched over to cash. Now, initially, cash held its actual value. So the coin itself was valuable because it was made out of gold, silver, or some type of relatively precious metal. So if you were to melt it down and turn it into, I don't know, part of a weapon or part of jewelry, it actually had value in and of itself. Obviously, with the money that we currently have, that is no longer the case. Coins are, I'm pretty sure the material cost of a coin far outweighs its actual value, which is actually a reason why a lot of small coins are no longer used, because they're too expensive to make for absolutely no value. Of course, the main thing with cash is if you want to spend lots of cash, say for example, like I said, I am currently in the Netherlands, we have the euro. If I want to spend, say, about 2,000, 3,000 euros, I'm gonna have to go to a bank. It's gonna probably take me a couple of days to get it accumulated. So what we see with cash is that it's very, very limited. At least most banks won't allow you to just casually take out 10,000 euros or dollars or pounds or whatever you want to call it. So cash is very limited. Also, as soon as someone tells you that you owe them something and you pay them in cash, you have to have the money ready and actually to hand it over physically. So the payment is made immediately. Cash has seen, depending on where you're from, so cash first came up in China. China was the first country to properly have cash instated, and that has been a long time. So cash is a monetary system that has been in place for a very, very long time. And it has been the most prominent payment method for a very long time as well. So what we've seen that cash was a very, very good system and it seemed fine until people started thinking about keeping their cash more safe. Like I said, if you wanted to spend a lot of money, having stacks and stacks of, in this case, notes with you is not very, very safe. So what people came up with is that maybe it would be a good idea if you had something that could signal that you had the money without taking the money with you. And very unoriginally and very clear from this picture, what they came up with was a card. So the first card that got introduced, at least within the Western systems, America being the first for the credit card, is the, so like I said, it was the credit card. So it's the Bank America card that was introduced in the late 50s, say early 60s. Now, like I said, the card was perceived to be safer. It meant you didn't have to take money with you everywhere. But another part a lot of people forget about with the credit card is that you might have the money standing on the card, you might not, depends how, how flush you are. But once you pay with a credit card, the money itself doesn't immediately get out of your account. What happens is that there is an IOU made on the account, so the payment doesn't go through immediately. So what actually started happening is that people started to realize this, and they were like, oh, I can spend money now, money that I don't have now and that I hope to have later. So this is also known as consumption smoothing, where instead of waiting for your wage to come in and only then spending your money, you would spend throughout the month knowing that this money was going to come in eventually. If this money does in fact come in, you're good. If this money doesn't come in, you are suddenly in debt. Now, as you know, with a credit card compared to cash, you don't actually have to physically hand anything over. With the credit card, it's just a plastic card. It has no real physical representation of money. And like I said, it is a lot less limited than cash, and it is also non-concurrent. These are actually quite important things to keep in mind. So another card, a card that, depending on where you are in the world, has become more popular than the credit card. At least in Europe, the debit card is much more popular. In America, the credit card is much more popular. Like I said, the debit card. So the debit card came in a bit later than the credit card. So the debit card was introduced in 1966, but this time it was introduced in Europe. It was introduced much later. In America, it was around the 80s. The debit card is linked to a current account and can't be used to build up a debt like we see with the credit card. So a debit card is actually quite limited. So the debit card is, again, only the cash that you currently have. Payment, again, is concurrent with a transaction. You need to have the money to spend it. And just like the credit card, this is not a physical representation of money. You can quite easily have this card and not think of money at all. So the topic of my PhD, as I said before, is actually this little sign that I'm interested in, which indicates that the card has a RFID chip enabled for NFC, so near field communications from device to device. Contactless is actually a lot older than people think. It was introduced in the last century, but was only popularized a couple of years ago, starting with public transport systems, most notably the London Underground. Like I said, it works with NFC, which is not exclusive to cars. It works with phones as well. It can work with watches. The Apple Watch, I'm pretty sure it can be used as a payment device as well. Again, this is a typical card. The payment is non-physical. It's limited if it's a debit card, and it's concurrent if it's a debit card, but you can have contactless credit cards as well, which I don't recommend you have, to be quite honest. Now, the next thing, which is really interesting, is that we finally moved on to mobile. So for most people, a mobile phone is already like a sixth or fifth, don't really know how, limb anyway. Most people, if they don't have their mobile phone with them, they get quite scared, to say the least. And it wasn't until very long that mobiles became a payment device. It's not very surprising. They're currently a social media device or a calling device. You can manage most of your finances through it. Most people have investment apps, banking apps, saving apps, and tracking apps for their money. So you might as well pay with it as well. So for example, you can use an app to pay. So Alipay, Visa Wallet, Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, or Samsung Wallet, I think it's called, or Android Pay. Again, these payments are very, very similar to card payments. They're non-physical. You don't actually have to hand any money over. It's just tapping or swiping or whatever you do. It is very limited if linked to a debit account that is, again, concurrent, meaning you lose the money at the time you make the purchase. Given that most people have their phone on them constantly, this means there is an absolute constant availability or accessibility of money. The lucky thing to some people, if you're anti the classic finance institute, so if you're against banking or you don't trust banks, the lucky thing with these methods is that if you have apps such as Monzo or Revolut or Starling, your money no longer has to be held in a bank. It can 100% be held within an app, if that is a personal preference for you. Do we have any questions so far about just the simple history of these payment methods?
Okay, thank you very much.
So this is just a really quick history. I'm actually gonna now go into why this is important. I'm just curious if there's any questions so far.
Okay, no problem. Thank you very much to our facilitator. So,
okay.
I will go over to what she said. We've talked about money, cash, credit, debit, mobile payments. How I've learned And there is an option there to raise your hand if you have a question, and then we'll take it. Do we have any question, please?
Well, according to the chat, everyone says it's really easy to understand. I mean, so we could just push on because this is literally just the history. So it's not, you know, the history you could
But
Google
if
worst
we-
case scenario. So I think I'm just going to move on if it's all good. Okay, then let's move on from the history and actually see what the implications are for this. So some people don't like history. I personally don't like history that much myself. And
Okay.
it's probably good to know that there is actually a point to me telling you what's going on here. So what we've seen, so as soon as we went from cash to another payment method, which was credit cards for large parts of the world, not everywhere, is that a credit card is not cash. This is probably not a surprise to anyone paying attention, but it is very, very different from cash. So you're going to see some terms on the screen, which I've already mentioned before. A credit card is not physical. You're not physically handing over any money. You're not getting any money back either, you know, if you had to break a note or something like that. A credit card isn't limited either. A credit card is by definition a form of credit, meaning a form of debt. And you can quite easily continue to keep getting into debt, and if one credit card maxes out, you can probably get a next one. You know, there's no real limit here. Whereas, you know, if you have a note of 50 pounds, 50 euros, dollars, whatever, you can only spend this once. Once you've spent $50, you're done. That's it. Again, a credit card is also not concurrent, which is why you can get into debt. So if I spend with a credit card, the bill or the actual payment is going to happen in, say, a month or maybe even much further away. And this is actually quite problematic. So what this has led to is that on a credit card, you spend so much more than you actually would if you were paying by cash. So within a single shopping trip, you would have a higher expenditure at the point of sale, which was already proven in '93. There is a higher willingness to pay as well, meaning that if I ask you, hey, how much would you pay for this product? If you're paying by credit card, you'll actually give me a much higher price than if you were to pay by cash. There have been some experimental methods as well that looked into transparency. So apparently people just can't keep track of how much they're spending if they're using a credit card. And this is just replicated throughout. So like I said, there's forgotten spending as well. So a lot of people get into credit card debt because they don't remember how much they had already spent. So some people think like, oh yeah, I've only spent like $100, and actually they spend about $200 and they can't repay the money. If you can't repay your credit card bill, you are in fact in debt. They are underestimating how much they've spent already, they're not overestimating it. And then again, compared to cash, even if you're using a method of debiasing, so if people repeatedly ask you, you know, how much have you spent on food this month? How much have you spent on clothes? How much have you spent on gaming? How much have you spent on clubbing? Whatever. Even if people then paid by credit card as compared to cash, even with all that help and people telling you, oh, you should really think about how much you spent, people with credit cards still forget their spending, and it is much, much worse, which really is a shame. So what happens is, what's actually really, really interesting is that this is not just a credit card. This has actually happened with other payment methods as well as compared to cash. So with cash, if you are actually using a debit card as compared to cash, you also have a higher willingness to pay, which is something we've also seen with the credit card. If we look at contactless, so which can work for both cards and mobile phones, it's just a tapping motion rather than actually, you know, going through several steps to pay, is that there is higher spending as well. You spend actually more often, and people feel as if they're not really in control over their spending because it's so easy. And there's been a lot of papers, well, not a lot, but there's been some research on mobile spending, so spending with your mobile phone, which has actually shown us that once we start introducing phone spending into our lives, that we are much more likely to exhibit other very costly financial behaviors, such as having payday loans, racking up a credit card debt, and just very, very various informations indicating that we have trouble managing our own finances. And this is obviously very problematic. Now, there is a reason that this is actually happening, but obviously you need to figure out what's going on. And what's actually going on is something that's called the pain of paying. So the pain of paying are all the negative feelings that we experience when we're paying for a good or a service. So this actually means that once I hand you money, this is actually a loss. Now Jesus Christ, that's really direct. Okay. Excuse me for the interruption. That's I don't think I've ever had someone type that to me or say that to me. So like I said, we experience very negative feelings when we pay for things. And the pain of paying is actually dependent on three things. So what's happening is that we have to physically hand over money. We have to hand over money as soon as we need to make the payment. And there's a limit to cash. Like I said before, if I only have $50 on me, I can only spend the $50. If I have a credit card on me, however, I can spend $50 on my credit card, but if necessary, I could also go into cash. And cash is very much the benchmark for this. So the most painful payment method is actually cash, and everything else is just a lot less painful. So in addition to that, so the pain of paying isn't the only theory on spending that we have. So I've already mentioned research by Soman. He talks about transparency, meaning that cash is very, very transparent. We can see how much we have left. We can see how much we have spent. And this makes it very, very easy. Of course, with a debit card, with a credit card, even with mobile spending, this is not really the case. The second one, decoupling, actually focuses on the timing of the spend. So this is actually more related to the credit card. So with cash, if I want to have a product now, I have to spend cash now. With the credit card, this is not the case. You only have to sign for your credit card, tap your credit card or whatever, and then maybe at the end of the month, if you so choose, you will have to pay for the product. A very interesting theory, I think I've been thrown out screen sharing, which I understand.
I put some people in the waiting room and I try to enable people to do anything now, but just continue, please.
Okay, do you want me to share my screen again?
And let's try again. I think when everybody will be in the waiting room, then maybe it's easier to know who does that, yeah? Sure. Because I think they are using other people's names to do that.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Sorry for that. Just continue.
Sorry. Oh, it's fine. I feel like I'm gonna just do it like this because then at least I can see where I'm going, so it's easier because I keep switching screens. So over here, like I said, decoupling works predominantly for credit cards. There's another theory here, which is multifunctional. Of course, I can edit this. Which is multifunctionality, which is entirely designed to focus on the mobile phone. So with a mobile phone as a payment method, what you have is a device that can effectively do it all, because your phone it's literally a phone, so you can call and text with it. It has all your social media on it. It has your I don't think your waiting room tactics are working.
Yeah.
But what's more important than this bullshit going on is just that so the phone is multifunctional. A phone is much more than a phone. It's much more than the payment method. And because of that, it might actually be that it's just not perceived as spending money if you have your phone out. I mean, I've got my phone laying here. My phone to me is my banking device as well. So it's not just associated with, spending. Very important, obviously, if you had any interest in behavioral economics or behavioral science, mental accounting as proposed by Saylor, the Nobel Prize winner. What's actually happening is that mental accounting means how easily you can keep track of the money that you spend in your head. So not physically within the bank statements that you have, but completely in your head. So if a payment is a lot less salient, as we see with the credit card, it's very difficult to keep track of them. Whereas something super salient as cash is very easy to keep track of, because cash actually helps you with that. So the takeaway message from this is, sorry, I should not scroll, is that different types of money invoke very different types of perceptions and feelings, and how we perceive money and feel about it actually determines how we handle it. So if we look at non-limited methods, such as credit cards, we tend to spend more and we spend more often. And obviously, as a result of that, we can get into debt because we don't really feel a limit. If we look at non-concurrent methods, they delay the pain of paying, they delay this feeling of loss, making the payment a lot less salient in memory, which leads us to forget that we've actually spent money, and sometimes we spend it again. So we have spent £50 over and over and over again because we thought we still had it. This is also, again, predominantly seen with the credit card. If we look at non-physical methods, so anything that isn't cash, we also don't feel that much pain of paying because they don't directly represent value nor loss. So obviously, if I'm paying with cash, I lose the £50 notes, and maybe I get some cash back, but you know, I definitely lose money. There is suddenly less of something physical, of something valuable to hold. Whereas with a credit card, you know, if I have to spend half the balance I still have on my credit card, I don't only have to give half the card. Like, I just pay on one go, and like the entire card remains. Like, you're not suddenly, you know, cutting your credit card in half to pay for half the balance that you have left. It's the same with your phone. It's the same with a debit card. It's not like you're suddenly, you know, have to give half your device away. That would be quite interesting. There are also non-exclusive methods, which is again the mobile phone, which aren't completely associated with money or paying. Again, this reduces the salience of the payment itself. So what we get is that as soon as we deviate from cash, be all end all payment method, is that payments just become very, very difficult to keep track of. They're much, much easier, and as a result, we tend to spend more and more often. So what can you actually do with this? Well, the easiest way to not spend money is to not have any money with you, which is advice that a lot of people can't actually do anything with. So the best way to curb spending is to experience pain, because if you leave the house, it is almost impossible for you to not have any money with you. So that advice is just not very useful. So if you want to curb your spending, you want to spend less or just less often, or you want to save more, what you could do is obviously use a lot more cash. But then you're gonna have to, you know, by hand track where all your money is going, if you want to know that. It can also be done exclusively through expenditure mechanisms that are being tracked. So for example, if you spend with your phone is also your banking device. So if you spend on your phone, you will have entire statements and everything tracked, seeing where your money is going. Obviously, there's drawbacks to both. If you use only cash, you have to track everything yourself. And a lot of people don't track accurately. You're going to have to keep receipts. You're going to have to do everything. Now, obviously, the solution for this is to have your phone track everything. But that means you have to spend with methods that make it much easier to spend, such as your phone and sometimes your debit card. So it really depends on what you prefer yourself. To me, the main advice is that if you feel like you're spending too much, you need to actually track your spending. And I really don't mind if you do that by hand, as long as you do it accurately, or you have your phone do that for you, but you need to know where your money is going. Now, like I said, my avenue is payment methods. And another very interesting, you know, area of research is obviously Bitcoin. So there are further areas of research. So Bitcoin is one of the latest payment method crazes. You can't exactly take Bitcoin to a store. At least I don't think you can do your groceries with Bitcoin yet. Given the value of a single Bitcoin, you can probably buy a lot for it, but it's not very tradable. But we really don't know that much about Bitcoin. So for researchers, it could be a very, very interesting area of research. We know very little about online spending as well, whereas, you know, I don't know if you spent much money on Amazon, but Amazon has a one-click purchase system, which makes it very easy to spend money. If you spend money too often via Amazon, you should make sure you disable that function. It will save you money. Moreover, there's quite a few countries. So I know Sweden, Canada, and India, at least their governments have been talking about this. They want to move cashless completely. And we don't actually know what a society like that looks like. So we don't know if that's actually something positive or not. We don't know either whether these payment methods have a habituation period. So habituation is a psychological phenomenon in which initially something, you know, if we just introduce, if we give people like a credit card, you know, in the 60s when they just started, maybe a lot of people overspend and they lose track of their spending. But then after a couple of months, you know, they see what's going on, they learn the effects of the credit card and they get used to it. So getting used to something is often referred to as habituation. So what happens then is that people have learned all the pitfalls that come with paying with a credit card and adjust their behavior accordingly. So these effects of overspending and losing track, etc., they disappear. another very, very interesting point that a lot of research is just not focusing on is that not every payment method had the same global uptake. So this presentation of first we had cash, then we had credit, then we had debit, and now we have contactless and mobile spending and a bit of crypto is very Western world focused. So this is what happened in a lot of Western Europe and the States. Now, if we look at a lot of Asia, the entire credit card era sort of got skipped, and debit cards aren't very popular either. But what we're seeing is that there was almost an immediate transition from cash to mobile payments. And for example, if we look at China, that transition was almost immediate, also depending on how the government runs the country, of course, is that now everything in China is effectively done through WeChat, which is a social app, a payment app, etc. So it's a very, very different payment system. So these are definitely things that we have to take into account as well.
Hey, can I stop you quickly and ask you to reshare? I'm really sorry, but yeah.
No, I'm actually done. So I can take the screen out so you can stop looking at these ugly things. No, that is effectively it. Yeah, I'm really, really sorry for this hacker. I didn't want anyone to see that, obviously. But I hope it was still good content-wise.
Yeah, sure it was. Thank you. You did a good work up there. Thank you very much. Okay, so to our facilitator, we appreciate you. It's now time for questions. I don't know if any of the participants have questions. Someone was waving out there while the session was still on.
Yeah, if your connection isn't that good, just drop a line in the chat. That's fine.
Yeah, you can just type if your connection is not good. But if it's good, you just wave up here. There's an option to wave, and then we'll give you the opportunity to ask your questions. So, questions, anyone? Okay, Belle, while you were out, there was one question in the chat session.
Okay.
Someone asked the future of credit card. What's the future of credit card?
That's a really, really good question. I don't think the credit card, depending on, of course, where you are in the world and what its current status is within your country, I don't think the credit card is very likely to disappear. I just think it's gonna, so if you think about a credit card, there's two things you think about, right? There is the actual physical card that you think of, and there's the fact that there is a payment method that lets you spend money, whereas you might not really have the money available to you. I think the physical credit card is very likely to disappear in the next 10 to 20 years. Because all these physical methods are going to disappear because everything is going to be moved online because it is much easier and much more convenient. Do I think that, so that the plastic card is going to disappear, but I don't think credit and spending on credit is going to disappear. So I think this is just going to move into you having a credit card within an app. So it will be an app that will function as a credit card. So it's slightly different, but it's the same thing on a mobile device, really.
Okay. Then you mentioned something about Bitcoin spending. Can you say more on that? Bitcoin spending.
Bitcoin spending.
Bitcoin, you mentioned that.
Yeah, no, of course I can. I mean, Bitcoin is, I have to be honest, Bitcoin is not my topic of expertise at all. But Bitcoin is very, very interesting because no one actually knows Google it is now, obviously. It's very difficult to establish what the value, like how much can you buy for a Bitcoin is very difficult to establish. Of course, we know that within the black market and within, illegal trading systems, I'm sure there's a value for it. But Bitcoin spending is not regulated to the extent where it can be used to buy a car or to trade against an already existing currency. So you can't trade in a Bitcoin to get American dollars. So for any type of money, really. So this is very, very difficult. And obviously, if you want to study Bitcoin, what you'd have to look at is illegal transactions, which I don't think anyone is going to give you data on illegal transactions so you can look how much money people are spending with Bitcoin. So until Bitcoin actually gets regulated, it's very difficult to say what can be done and what can't be done with Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin was a very good move towards, and not just Bitcoin, like any type of cryptocurrency, was a really good move away from traditional banking. I do feel there is a lot more work that needs to be done. I don't think we're going to move away from banking as it is soon, but I do think we are moving towards open finance. Do I think that's cryptocurrency based? No, but I think a lot more things are going to move online, and not everyone is going to be working with a bank to have their finances taken care of.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
For that, I don't know if any other person has a question to ask. Please send in your questions.
Maybe my presentation was just too easy for you.
Oh, I'm surprised there's no question when it involves money.
Well, I can't give any investment tips, you know, so don't ask me. But I've given this talk.
Okay, I think there's a hand up here. Habakkuk, he has a question. Okay, Habakkuk, over to you. Hello, Habakkuk, can you hear us?
I think the question isn't about the presentation.
Okay,
I think
the question isn't about the presentation.
Yes.
Okay. We need questions about the presentation, please.
Yeah. My question is, are you hear me? My question
Yeah, we can
is,
hear
so
you.
will you certify, okay, so you will certify us, the all participants of the class master?
Okay, that question will be answered by,
okay.
We can hear you. I think that question will be answered by the host, not really the facilitator.
Okay.
Did you hear me?
I would like to, yeah, I hear you. I would like to know if you, after the training, if you certify us. If you certify us after the training.
I just answered that question, that's not for the facilitator, it's actually for the host. So I don't know, the host, do you have anything to say about that?
What?
Hello?
The question, I think, is not for Merle. That is a question which goes either to Africunia TV, but to Masterclass in the first place, right? To see we're going to certify the people. That is the question, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So would you certify them? That's the question he's asking right now.
As we thought about that, it will be taken in place maybe from the next time. See how we handle that.
So
I think yes.
Okay. So again, I would like to talk. Okay. Now, I would like to have a certificate from international certificate from your training. This is my goal, to follow your training and to have a level to improve my level in the English science.
Okay.
Future we will do that, and we will speak with our host, who is the masterclass today. So they have also their word in it, not only us. I'll give the word to Victoria.
Okay. Thank you very much. I don't think there is any other question right now. So we'll take the vote of thanks from...
Hello?
Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay.
Good evening from my end, everyone. My question is this: as regard to the credit card. Like I understand, whenever you use the MasterCard, you are being charged by the financial institution that issued that MasterCard to you, that card to you. I want to know, is there any way I can earn money by using this card to purchase things online? Is there any method I can use?
To earn money through spending? There isn't really a way to earn money. With credit cards, what you see quite often is that you can earn points, or you can earn air miles, or you can earn cashback. So cashback depends on the type of platform that you're using. I don't think that's from MasterCard or the bank itself. But if you, for example, if you just Google like cashback programs, I think there will be a couple that you can use for your spending. So for example, you spend like $400 on eBay, and then you get like 10% of your spending you get refunded. I don't really know how it works. It's not my expertise. I do know these programs exist. I can't really think of anything else.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, cashback.
Yep.
Let me write it down.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't think we have any other questions, right? Are we good to go?
Sure.
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Yeah, well, I guess that's it. I guess my presentation was just too simple.
You did a good job. You explained everything, and we understand.
Well, I'm glad. That means, yeah, that's good.
No, thank you. It was really interesting.
Yeah, it was a good one for the adverts. Hello? Africunia, can you hear me?
A small input from our side.
Hello? So the host, it's time for your advert.
One moment.
Yes. So we have a short advert before the vote of thanks from the Masterclass initiative.
So back to you.
Okay, that was a good one. Thank you. I've seen something about emailing campaign, new products and all there. I hope someone will get something from that. Thank you very much. Okay, I think based on not having any more questions, you had two adverts to run. So can you just do that at once so we round up and end the session with our vote of thanks? I think that would be a better approach.
Okay, I do another short.
Is that okay?
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. My mistake. So back to you, Victoria. Our advertisement is we are done with it.
Okay. 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 The person that was supposed to give the vote of thanks, Babatunde of Masterclass, I think network just logged him out. So on behalf of Masterclass Initiative, we say thank you to all our participants. We wouldn't have done this without you. You made it happen. We would have just been here, myself and the facilitator and the co-host, 3 people. You can't make it happen. So thank you very much for your time, for coming to join us. We hope you learned a lot, and we expect to see you implement what you've learned today and also see you in the next session. You will hear from us. Thank you very much.
Thank you as well. And so
Thank you.
Thank you, and have a nice day. I hope to see everybody again in the next classes with Masterclass. So
Yes.
stay tuned with us. Stay tuned on Africunia TV. I'm sure we're gonna always update you and give you the new dates and information. And hopefully next time we will not have this kind of disturbance that we have today. So, nice weekend, everybody. Thank you from Africunia TV.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.